Today's episode of the Riderflex podcast is sponsored by our friends at Truman's, a company that's taking the clutter out of cleaning. Seriously, have you ever noticed the hundreds of single-use cleaning bottles filled with toxic ingredients at the store? Well, Truman's is fixing all of that with a lineup of non-toxic cleaners and refill cartridges. Check them out at trumans.com. And on today's episode of the Riderflex podcast, why you should have a self-video interview or a video resume, if you will. I'm encouraging almost every job candidate to do that. Here's why. A couple of big key reasons. First, you can record it and emphasize the things that you know are critical about yourself. I mean, think about it for a minute. Most interviewers, whether it's a recruiter or even the employer, most of them aren't good at interviewing. That's number one. They have limited time. They're only going to ask you certain questions. What if you get in there and you forget to emphasize key points about yourself? What if they don't ask you a question you had prepared for that you think is super critical and has information that you wanted to share? I mean, just let that sink in. If you do a self-video interview, you're emphasizing and highlighting the things you think are most important about yourself and your experiences. Really, I mean, that's the key thing. I can't tell you how many times I've either interviewed for jobs or I've had candidates interview, and later on, the candidate will say, "Oh, I forgot to tell you this. I forgot to tell you that. I forgot to emphasize this," whatever. I mean, just think about it for a minute. How many times have you been on an interview and you walked out of there and you thought, "Oh, gosh, I forgot to emphasize A, B, and C." Do a self-video interview and you'll emphasize all of your key points. Now, here's the other big reason to do a self-video interview. If somebody sees it and they don't like your style or whatever, they don't think your personality fits their company culture or whatever, great, saves you time. Think about that, right? Like, if they're not going to quote like you, then let them see you right up front. Don't have them call and schedule the interview. You got to take a day off work and go interview and waste all day long over there. I mean, if they're not going to like you, let them see it right up front with a self-video interview. Saves you time. Let me emphasize this point by saying every single client that we work with as a recruiting firm, not every single client. Okay, let me back up. A lot of times, okay, the client will say, "Oh, yeah, we met Mary and I just didn't like her really." Or, "Yeah, we interviewed Johnny and, he just didn't really seem like a fit." They can't even put their finger on it, right? You know what that is? It's just human nature, right? I mean, think about how often you meet somebody in a social gathering or whatever, and you like them or you don't like them for some reason. You don't even know why. Well, I hate to tell you this, but it's the same way when you're interviewing for jobs with employers so often. So my point is, let them see your style and your personality in a self-video interview, and you're going to save yourself a ton of time. Why not just show them who you are right up front? Now, a couple of points on how to get this ready, right? If it were me and I was, let's say I was in the market for a job, I was unemployed and I was screaming to the world that I'm available, then I would create a video and I would put it right on my LinkedIn profile. Make sure that you can, there's a link there, or there's an upload of a video of yourself right on your LinkedIn. And make sure you include that link to the video interview on your resume. You can put that video, by the way, in like a shared Google Drive, or maybe on a shared or a public YouTube channel or something. I mean, there's so many different ways to do it. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole of giving you a bunch of tech advice on exactly how to do that, but whether it's a YouTube upload or it's a Google Drive shared folder or whatever, I mean, there's so many ways to give people access to your video interview. And just make sure the link to it is on your resume, and people can also see it and access it from your LinkedIn profile. Now, your LinkedIn profile, of course, is only if you're publicly active in a job search, meaning you're not worried about your current employer finding out. If you are worried about your current employer finding out, don't put it on your LinkedIn profile. but put the link on your resume for sure, right? So anyway, there you go. I want to get away from the tech advice in this episode, but my point is really this: just show people who you are right up front. So often you will or you will not get the job based on whether or not they think you're just a personality fit for their company, and show them that right up front with a self-video interview. And there is your Riderflex tip of the day. The Riderflex podcast features entrepreneurs, business executives, and the stories behind how they got there, as well as daily tips on career advice and job interviews. Our show can be heard just about anywhere these days, but you can visit riderflex.com and click on the podcast page to hear all the previous episodes and learn more about the recruiting and consulting services we provide. Contact us at the email address info@riderflex.com or 888-964-5876. Thanks so much for listening, and if you enjoy our show, please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like the episodes.